Okay, we are live with Bill Ream. Thank you so much for taking some time to come onto my podcast, which is basically almost the same name as your podcast, even though we're doing two completely different things. Welcome to my show. Where have you been, bitch, sir? How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm very honored to be here. Honored to be one of, it seems to be a handful of male guests that you've had. So,
I do tend to gravitate towards girls, towards women, and then my boyfriend also is a very frequent guest too, so he counts.
And it's not often that I'm called bitch, but I'll take it.
In this context, it is a term of endearment. It is meant to be flattering. It is meant to be empowering. So wonderful. Yeah, you should take it as something good. So your podcast, Where Have You Been? Being in the space about traveling, travel stories, and we kind of got into it when we first talked, but where did the original idea for Where Have You Been come from?
Boy, how long-winded do you want me to be?
Be as long-winded as you need.
Ultimately, the idea for the travel podcast started much later, but I was always interested. I've always been interested in listening to people's just stories of their lives. So even I was a banker for many years. I live in Pittsburgh, and just my job as a banker was really, you sit down, you get to know somebody, you get to know who their family is, what their life situation is, and you want to understand things like that so that you know what types of things you want to offer to them or present to them that's going to help them in their lives. So you're not just product pushing. And so, sometimes, especially when you get certain people, in my experience, elderly, sometimes for what it's worth, lower income people that, I don't know, just for some reason, they just really, it's like they want someone to talk to, almost like you're sitting at a bar, they're talking to a bartender. They just want someone to talk to, and they start telling their stories. And some of the things that human beings have gone through that you just don't even realize when you're just walking by them on the street is just really incredible and magnificent. And so I've always enjoyed listening to people's stories, and I've always thought, well, those stories should kind of be told and heard. And then at some point in my life, I discovered StoryCorps on NPR, which, if you're familiar, they drive a truck around and they let people come in and interview each other, family members or friends or whatever the case is. And so that always interested me. And then something happened in the last, well, first I discovered travel. So that was important. In 2016, I traveled for the first time outside of the country, and that was really eye-opening to me. And then I think I've traveled, I don't want to say extensively, but more than most probably in the last 9 years. And so now in my role as a bank manager, I'm dealing with a lot of business owners, a lot of people who are traveling to other countries. They come into the bank to get foreign currency, whatever. And then, of course, the topic just comes up. We start talking about travel, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, when we're not even like that. I'm supposed to be working, but I am, because I'm dealing with clients.
Yeah.
And I just realized, if I enjoy it this much and that person enjoys it this much, chances are there's others out there that would also enjoy it. So that's where it came from.
So where did the idea for like crystallizing it onto a podcast rather than a blog or like a series of articles? You had mentioned that you had the idea a while ago. What was the thing that made you be like, all right, I'm claiming the Instagram page, I'm buying the mic, I'm, setting up an account on Podmatch, we're doing it?
Yeah, I did do some work in radio back when I was another person. I mean, I feel like it was a lifetime ago. It was
back when I was another person.
And I enjoyed it so much. It wasn't a job. It was so much fun. I would have paid somebody to do it, but unfortunately, I literally almost did have to pay someone to do it. The pay was so terrible. Small market radio is not great. It's great to do. It's just not great to earn an income. at the time, getting ready to start a family, things like that, it just wasn't right. So I got out of that. But I've always loved to talk. And so I think I just decided it wasn't even like during the podcast rush of like COVID. It was more like maybe mid 2022, late 2022. And that was when my kids always ask me every year, what do you want for Christmas, Dad? I'm like, I got everything I need. Like, I need.
God, that's the classic dad answer. And it always drives me nuts.
It is, but I'm a techie guy. And so if there's a gadget or something I want, I'm probably just going to get it. And so.
No, you have birthdays and Christmas. You can wait.
No.
And let other people buy things for you. All right. I feel like I'm talking to. I'll stop. God.
No, I don't. I mean, certain things I can, but no. And so I don't know. So I came up with the idea and I was just like, get me podcast equipment. Like, and I was kind of joking. And yeah, they got me podcast equipment. So I have, a little mixer and microphones and stuff. And they got me those. I believe it was Christmas of 22. And I proceeded to stare at them for almost 2 years until, a couple months ago when I finally did something about it. So
that's awesome. So you've been at it for how many months?
My first episode released in March.
Wow.
So just a couple months.
What's been, and feel free to be as like loose with the answer, but what has been the main challenge thus far with starting the podcast, maintaining the podcast?
Probably just budgeting my own time, to be honest with you. I mean, once you get things going, and I've probably gone overboard right off the bat because, I started things off, I got positive feedback, I got positive reinforcement from people who I didn't expect to. For example, like my younger son, he's done some traveling with us as a family, but other than that, I've never really known him to express a desire to travel like on his own or do anything like that. And one of the first things he said to me after he listened to the first couple episodes was, Dad, I have to give you some criticism. I was like, okay, that's fair. Yeah, your episodes need to be longer.
Ooh.
And my episodes push an hour and a half typically. And I'm like, I can't go longer than that. That's too much. He's like, no, I just want to keep listening. I'm like,
oh,
that means a lot. Okay. And then, I have a fantastic friend, one of my best friends who, again, like, I don't even know that he travels at all. So, and he told me, like, he listened to the first episode and said, I think you got something here. And so once you start, and there's, more than just that, but once you start getting that, it's like, okay, these people who aren't even necessarily in it for the travel part of it are enjoying the stories enough that maybe there's something here for almost anybody, even if they don't travel. So,
yeah, I love that. And I don't always like lead with, oh, and I have a podcast. I have been like somewhat quiet about it, but when people ask about it and I kind of like give them the quick little blurb about like what this podcast is about, the way that I've seen certain people kind of like light up and kind of like their eyebrows go up and kind of go like, oh, that always is like, wait, is it a good idea? Did I just say something smart? Was that good? And I think that it's those little like cookies that we get from like other people. Because as much as, we do this for ourselves, but like we also want to do it for other people. We do want people listening. So I understand that. That's awesome.
Without question. Yep. And then I jumped in. I got the website started. I did, like you said, I got all the socials going. And now, I've got like automated everything, like my website, hosts. I can set up automatic socials, and then I've got like every episode that I do. Now I'm clipping them so they can send out in reels, and that's all. I set it up once for the whole week, and then it's just good. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy and it's insane, and it's taking way too much of my time. But I also know that once things are going to calm down, because we discussed it. Like right now, I'm just backlogged on recording, and once I get to a point, probably once I get into the mid part of June, I'll be able to take a break.
Yeah, it's good that you're batching stuff, because I have always been in the position where like I'm always looking for a guest, and then it's like, oh my God, like I'm supposed to be dropping a new episode on Wednesday, and I like don't have anybody lined up by Saturday. So I'm kind of like towing the line very close like that, and I'm doing some traveling in June, and I'm like, what am I gonna do as far, because you don't want to break the streak, you know.
Mhm.
You don't really want to take a break, even though it's like this isn't a job. Like I can take a break whenever I want.
When you do have a minute where like you don't have a guest lined up, you're very entertaining on your own. So even when you do a solo,
Oh God, you
it,
listen to the solo ones too? Yikes! Yikes!
it's a good listen. So
Oh, thanks. Thank you. You don't have to go
you're
into
welcome.
details because for the people listening, they should listen to the episode. But what has been a favorite moment of yours with a guest?
Like a favorite story type of thing.
A favorite story or like a favorite like a reaction that somebody had or something that you were able to draw out of someone that was maybe like an interesting discovery for the both of you. Just something that kind of like
Yeah,
a nice moment with someone.
there's been a couple. So there's an episode which actually has not released yet, so you won't be able to listen to it yet. But and there's been a couple of these types of moments when I've been recording. It's not necessarily about this. It's okay. It's multifaceted. So for example, and I won't go into the story, but there's a guest that I believe the episode will be releasing in June, who I can just tell. So the way that the format of the show goes, I ask a couple upfront questions, and we really just have a conversation for about an hour. It's in ways it's similar to your show in that it's just very conversational. But so we just talk. We just talk about travel. Mostly the guest tells their stories. Then I get to the end and I have just a set of like 5 questions that I wrap with. And I can tell after the hour and 10-minute mark, like if somebody's just kind of getting a little done, or if they're going to be somebody I'm going to have back again because we just could keep talking forever. And I had this one guest, and I could just tell because I was asking, is there anything else from this place? Anything we want to mention before we go? Nope, I think we're good. Nope, I think we're good. And I just glanced at the list because I asked them to give me a list of all the places that they've been. And I said, Canada? Anything? And he proceeded to tell me, first, I will tell you this part of it about like how he was just backpacking with this hard shell. I think it's a hard shell. Basically, I don't even know how you would describe it. It just goes around his body when he's in a sleeping bag and protects him. And he was sleeping in that every night for months. And then decides it's time to go home, and he hitchhikes from wherever he was. And the guy that picks him up and the story that he tells him is like heartbreaking and beautiful. And if I hadn't just said Canada, we wouldn't have had that story. And so like that to me is, and it happened again last night. I was recording someone, and I just happened to ask him for no reason whatsoever. The gentleman's an author. This episode will be on in a couple weeks. He's an author, and he was traveling with his son, and they were taking a boat from South America to Antarctica. And I just said, what's it like when you're traveling for days, when it's just the two of you in this room, like what's the conversation like, And he was like, oh, well, that's actually when we decided that we were going to write this book. And so he's written this book, which has gotten acclaim and like super high reviews on Amazon. And it's about his son and his son growing up with, he wasn't diagnosed with anything specific. There was a specific diagnosis, but it was kind of vague, similar to autism,
Mhm.
but grew up going through a whole lot of interesting and sometimes terrible situations. And they found skiing was the one thing that just brought him out. And so they wrote this book about it. And like, if I hadn't just said, what was the conversation like, we wouldn't have known that that's where the book idea, when the book idea actually happened. So yeah, those are really cool moments to me that I don't know, it's not an intuition thing. It's just, it just happens. And I don't understand it.
Well, that's kind of like the art of the interview, kind of like picking on the little things that like you might be able to like, what is this thread that they would maybe be willing to sort of let unravel? And it's fun when like maybe it's the first time that they too have like fully articulated
Mm-hmm.
that, retelling of that story and how they felt about it. That's really beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you are based in Pittsburgh. Are you from Pittsburgh originally?
No, I'm originally from a small town called Jamestown, New York, just outside of Buffalo.
Okay.
If anyone's familiar with Erie, Pennsylvania, if you draw a line southwest of Buffalo and directly east of Erie, where that connects, that's where I'm from.
Wow. So if you, because now we're getting into travel talk. Here we go. If you
Okay.
couldn't, if you couldn't live in Pittsburgh, where in the U.S. would you want to live?
Does it have to be the continental US?
Yes, because question two is to expand it. So if we're staying within the confines of the US, Alaska or Hawaii too, we could include that. It doesn't have to be the lower for, but the 50 states.
I mean, I've never been to Hawaii, but it seems like almost every guest that I have for some reason has been there and loves it. And one
Mm-hmm.
one guest actually lives there. So um that's a really tough question. I'm really happy in Pittsburgh, to be honest. Like there's a little bit of everything here. Some people would say go further south, like Florida or something. I hate the humidity in Florida. It's a fun place to go for a short time to get out of here, but matter of fact, I'm going in a few weeks, but I'm good with that. Yeah, I don't know that there is another place that I would go. Everyone, they're like, I'm thinking about like going like to the West Coast or something. I don't want to
Yeah.
go out by like LA or anything. I don't need to be out in the woods, which I love the beauty. I don't need to be out in the woods. I don't need the big city because I have a big city here, even though it's smaller scale. I don't know. There's just nothing. I think I'm good. I'm sorry to not really answer your question, but
No, that is an answer to the question. And it's not expected. And it's really, really lovely to be like, this is where I should be. Like that's really nice. I
it's a
spent
beautiful place in Pittsburgh. There's almost any type of area that you've been in the country. There's something like it here, and so
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's good.
I almost went to Carnegie Mellon for college.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really glad that I didn't get accepted because I don't think I would have been very happy there because I went to school at a very small school in Maine that was like a very like tight, small, tiny campus, and I kind of felt that way at Carnegie Mellon too. Like it's a big campus, but it's still very much like there's campus and then there's the rest of the world. And I ended up going to school in the city, which is very much like you're kind of going to classes and you're already sort of out in the world doing your own thing, and then like you're also a student. And don't I didn't have the best time in Pittsburgh when I visited Carnegie Mellon.
Oh
So
no.
I've been wanting to go back. So maybe that'll be a thing at some point this year. I'll let you know if I'm ever in town and you can be like, where should I go to turn my
Oh, for
experience
sure.
of Pittsburgh
I'll
around? So, well, this is good now. What
okay.
are some if someone is new to Pittsburgh, what are some places that they have to hit?
Yeah, I mean, most of the places are the standard. Like you have to go up to Mount Washington because you have to do the incline at least once and see the most beautiful views of the city. So you have to do that. You have to go to, if you're into sports at all or anything like that, you want to go to the North Shore so you can see the stadiums. Places you have to go for sure. One of my favorite places in the city is called the Strip District. It's where there used to be all of the warehouses where all of the trucks would come and get all their goods and stuff and load up whatever. Well, now everything is all converted. It's all shops and restaurants, and the one side of it's very modern and new, but the other side of it is still kind of like as it has been for the last 30 years, 40 years, and it's just got a lot of character and charm and a lot of really cool shops and restaurants and places to go. You have to go to a Permanis once. You got to get a sandwich. Those are the main points. Squirrel Hill is one of my favorite neighborhoods, which is generally known as the Jewish community, but now it's got a lot of Asian influence and a lot of Asian flair there too. So a lot of fusion restaurants and things like that as well. So yeah, those are the places that come to mind right off the bat.
Okay, so we're done with Pittsburgh. And then this is the follow-up. If you couldn't live in the US, where in the world would you want to live?
Yeah, can I pick more than one?
Yes. Yes, you can.
So I think my number one for living, it's a toss up. It's a toss up between somewhere in Costa Rica
I
or
love Costa Rica.
Puerto Rico, actually, are two of my favorite places. And I could definitely see myself living there. Either one. Um, if it was if there was another choice, I just don't know about the living part of it, but I would love to spend much, much, much more time in Venice.
Mm.
But yeah, living, I think, is probably either Costa Rica or Puerto Rico.
The living in Costa Rica, like we were there in December with my entire family, and it's just like they just do everything better there. Like the food is better, like the people are so nice. They just like have it figured out there as far as like how to live well on the cheap for the most part.
And don't you almost like the minute you're there, maybe not the minute, because typically you fly into San Jose and you got to get out of San Jose
Mm-hmm.
and get somewhere else. But once you're in like any other area, you just I don't think you can help but just feel relaxed
Yeah.
and I don't know if I want to say energized, but there's just a totally different vibe to everything. And they call it Tico time because everything just kind of runs on whatever time they're working on. It's good, and nobody's in a rush, and it's just so beautiful. And yeah, whereabouts did you go?
We flew into San Jose,
Mm-hmm.
and then we took like the tiniest plane I've ever been on in my life out to the Oso Peninsula, and we stayed at this like rainforest
Mm-hmm.
hotel for like 3 nights, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like truly like the only way to get there was by boat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the place where we would go, like the little restaurant there, like didn't have windows. It was just like an open air
Yeah.
thing. Um, yeah, and we like hiked through the jungle at night and saw all these crazy animals, and like we made really good friends with the bartenders there. And then what is the other really touristy spot? Um,
Well, there's a few, but you're probably thinking of Hako, maybe.
maybe it had like a saint something, saint name, a saint.
Oh, off the top of my
It's
head, I'm not sure.
it's like a main drag that's also on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And we kind of balled out and stayed in like a nice resort right on the ocean. But no, and I one thing about the Costa Rican culture that like I was like, that is bomb and that should be adopted everywhere. There was sort of this it was said like a few times, we love that people want to come here. We love hosting tourists. We love that you're here. The environment will always come first. Like we
Mm-hmm.
don't care like what kind of inconvenience it causes you or,
Mm-hmm.
what you have to like no you cannot bring that into the national park. No, you have to wash off your shoes. Like there were so many rules and regulations to protect their national parks and their environments and their oceans. And it was
Yep.
very much like it's cool that you're here and we love that you're spending money here, but like you don't we're going to protect what we have.
Yeah.
And
And
first.
so to go so far as to on the east coast of Costa Rica, they have a mandate that you cannot build within so far of the water. So all of that land
Wow.
from I don't remember exactly how wide it is, but there's nothing on the water. So that's all, public land. So
That's
yeah, very,
beautiful.
very cool. It's so awesome. And there's so much diversity, so much to do and see. And I mean, the zip lining, the whitewater rafting, and I'm not even an adventure guy, but it's just so great. The Arenal volcano is beautiful. The hot springs, it's great. And the open air restaurants are everywhere. That's just the way it is because it's so temperate and nobody's stealing nothing. And there's no walls.
Yeah.
Very
I mean, I
cool.
feel like that encapsulates like the culture. Like there's no walls. People are just like
Yeah.
having a good time and it's just
I
fine.
think the kitchens are typically closed off, but that's about it.
Well, for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So we talk about travel as something that everything that like something that everybody should do or try to do. And I do think it's important to note that like being able to travel is such a privilege. And
Mhm.
it's something that so many people would love to do. And for a variety of reasons, particularly in this country, it's not available to them. So this is not to like rag on anybody or make anybody feel bad. And for some people, traveling is just not their thing, and that's fine too. But
Yep.
what would you want to say to the people who, like, born and raised in the same place, never left their hometown, never feel the need to leave their hometown?
I would say do it once. And I don't even care if you wanted to just not step so far out of your comfort zone and do something as a first step, like a cruise, because at least you get your feet wet a little bit. You get out, you get to see some places, and it's for a short time, and you can just step off the boat for part of a day, see what life is like in another place, even though it's, most of the places you're going to are sort of perfect because they wouldn't take you to a place that's not necessarily, but you get to see and experience something more than what you're used to, because that's exactly what my life was for much of my life. I grew up in a small town in Western New York. I got married, I had a couple kids, and I thought, well, my parents used to take me to Cape Cod, to Disney, like once a year when I was little, and that was travel. Unless we went to see a family member somewhere, that was it. And so that's just kind of what I thought it was. You read about other countries, you see videos, and you go, that's cool, but that's not going to be my life. And then once you do it, and that's all it took. The first time that I left the country, besides Canada, was to Italy and Greece, and that was it. I mean, two of the most beautiful places in the world.
I was going to say, you hit some pretty heavy hitters right off the bat. Yeah. It's pretty hard to go wrong in either of those places.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, it as you could expect, it was life-changing. And once you're there and you experience it for the first time and you realize, like, okay, I can do this. And it becomes something for most people, at least it did for me, that I don't have a choice anymore. Like this has to be a part of my life going forward, or I won't be happy. And so I'll find ways to make it happen. And if I have to sacrifice weekend trips or, games that I want to play on my phone, or, going out to dinner or buying that whatever I have to sacrifice, if that's what it takes for 6 months or 9 months to save up to be able to spend money on it. And to be honest with you, a lot of the places that you go are not that expensive. You think that they would be, but there's not. And there's ways to get around it. Airbnbs are so cheap anymore, especially if you don't go to a place when it's like the high season. Don't go when everybody else is going. Find a time that's near that, but not, and
you
save yourself
creative.
some money. Yeah, absolutely. And there's I'm not advertising for them because I don't have any affiliation with them, but there's a website called Going, and I think there's multiples, not just this one. But if you just are looking for, like, hey, I would love to go to Ireland, but I can't afford that flight, you sign up for a site like that, like going.com. And if I'm allowed to push a site that, like I said, I'm not affiliated with them.
Sure.
And they'll send you stuff to your email almost every day that's coming out from your local airport or whatever's closest to you, that flights that are unbelievable. Like most are half price. You got to book it quick, but the trip may not be for months. So if you're on the ready and you've got some money saved, and there's ways to do it for sure. And I'm not a tip guy, but there's ways to do it.
But that's a good tip.
So that's what I would say. Whatever it is, whether it's a cruise or somebody else is going somewhere, or you go to your local travel agent and find a deal where there's a package where there's a whole bunch of people going. So that saves you a little bit of money because it's a larger group. Just do it. Do it one time. Even if you do it and you hate it, you did it. But I doubt you will, depending on where you go.
What is a travel experience that you're dying to have, regardless of like location? What's like a thing that you want to do as part of your travel book?
I don't know if there's anything specific. Boy, I'm a bummer. I don't know if there's anything specific that's like on my list that I haven't done. I'd have to really think about that. Because really what I enjoy most when I travel is, unless I'm going to like an all-inclusive where I'm just sitting down on the beach and just having some drinks and then go get dinner and, whatever. I really just like to walk around and see the town and meet the people. And if I can interact with people, I want to talk to people. I want to just learn about the culture. And so I don't know that I'm not exciting in that way. Like I said, I've done like some of the crazy things. I've seen beautiful places. I've been to the Vatican. I don't know. I don't know that there is anything like that for me.
Well, what's the craziest thing that you've already done?
Craziest for me is definitely the zip lining in Costa Rica. by
yeah.
far. And that's only because I'm afraid of heights. And if you saw the videos, which I could show you, of how high up we were in the canopy of the rainforests, like looking down at waterfalls is
Oh God. Oh no.
crazy, but so unbelievably beautiful, so worth it. And I think I would probably do it again. I think I would do it again, even though I'm terrified of heights. I like if I'm 3 steps up on a step stool, I'm holding on to something because I'm gonna fall. But yeah, the zip lining, I don't know. I think part of it was, the whole family was there. I wasn't gonna wuss out in front of the kids, and even though I've done that before too, wussed out on things. But no, I was gonna do it, and I did it, and it was crazy and wonderful.
I think that's like one of the, other than, the cuisine and meeting people and doing the museums and stuff. And it depends on like what location you go to, but it's also like the opportunity to like do little scary things and just to like prove to yourself that you still can,
Well, and speaking of the heights thing, I guess for me, this was kind of crazy. We were just in South America a couple of years ago, and not only did we go to Machu Picchu, but we also climbed. There's like a medium mountain, and then I can't remember what it's called when we did, but there's Huayna Picchu, which is across the way, which is even taller. But just climbing up this second mountain where there's no railings, it's not made for tourists. It's just a mountain that you can climb. And I don't know, maybe they have sort of, I don't know if it's just from people doing it, or maybe they have made some things like there's maybe a spot where there's a rope because it's just a little too dangerous to do it without it. But for the most part, no, you're on your own. If you fall, you're done.
You're done. Yeah.
And climbing up to the top of that was insane for me. And especially the coming back down was a little nerve-wracking. But again, once you're up there, my God, it's worth it. Like just the view and seeing that you're at the same level as the clouds and being able to look down on Machu Picchu is really incredible. That was awesome.
That's cool. What is the and this it's a heavy hitter for the last one. So no pressure. But what, in your esteem, in your experience, is the most important thing that traveling can teach us?
I think the most important thing that travel does, and I guess teaches us, is that, it sounds stupid, the world is so vast, but I think the biggest thing that I've really learned along the way is that people are just people, and it doesn't matter what culture they're in, where they're from, what they do, what their walk of life is. It just doesn't matter. Everyone that you meet when you're traveling, they're just living their lives day to day, just like we are. It just is in a different environment. Their jobs may be different. Their surroundings are different. Their lives are different, but they still just have families. They still just have to work. They still just have to make money. And I think one of the lessons that I learned very quickly, I don't even know if I had to learn it really. Maybe I did, because I was very close-minded when I was younger. But when you go to another place, reminding yourself that you're in their land, you're in their home. So I know that there are people that live in America that get upset when people come into America and don't speak English. And it's like, it's not their language, man. Like, now it's easier also because of Google Translate and things like that. But when you go to travel to Italy or to somewhere else, do you learn Italian before you go? Like, probably not. So what do you do when you encounter somebody who they didn't learn English? It happens all the time when you go to some of these places. And so you do the best you can. I mean, I can't count the amount of times that I've had to somehow just like pointing and hand motions and whatever, but it's not fair for us to go somewhere and expect someone to speak our language when we're in their home. But yeah, just the world is, and everything you think you know, you only know it about your bubble. So you got to get outside your bubble.
Well, this is awesome. This was all that I had for you, unless you had any other words of wisdom or advice about traveling or a favorite tidbit. if you plan to be the next Rick Steves, who I grew up on Rick Steves. Love Rick Steves. God, he's the best.
Rick Steves is a legend. I already said it on one episode. If you're listening, Rick, you're welcome to be a guest on the podcast. I don't think I have anything momentous to add. I just, you know, I appreciate what you're doing with this format. I think it's pretty cool. I think
thanks.
You're a natural host, so that's really cool. I just appreciate having the opportunity to come on. I'm glad I reached out. I just thought it was really. I almost was going to say something like where have we been? Because it's
We'll save that. Yeah, save that tagline for when I'm on your podcast in a couple of weeks, and we'll check back and we'll use that one because that's a good one.
Okay.
Where have we been? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Where Have You Been, Bitch? Find me on Instagram at thatjanewest. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Leave a comment saying how much you loved it. And if you hated it, keep that to yourself. That's none of my business.